Today I want to speak to you from the heart, from a passage that has been a source of comfort to millions of souls throughout the centuries. A message that never grows old, never fades, and still carries the same power it had when Jesus first spoke it. Matthew 11:28 says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." These words are not just a simple Bible verse. They are an invitation from Jesus himself, an invitation to rest, to let go, to breathe. Let your tears, your fears, and your worries find refuge in him. It doesn't matter who you are, how far you've fallen, or how long your struggle has been. Jesus doesn't ask you for titles, conditions, or for you to arrive perfect. He only asks you to come. Come closer. May you dare to rest in him. Perhaps you who are listening to this have felt like the world has run you over. You've worked so hard, you've put in so much effort, and yet you still feel like it's not enough. You carry the worry for your children, your health, your finances, and what tomorrow will bring. You go to bed tired, you wake up tired, and yet you keep going because you know you can't give up. But Jesus says to you today, come to me. It doesn't tell you, do more. It doesn't tell you, fight harder. It tells you, rest in me. There are moments in life when the burden becomes so heavy that we feel we can't go on. And that's where this verse becomes a refuge. Jesus did not come to earth to judge the weary, but to sustain them. He didn't come to point out the weak, but to lift them up. He didn't come to put more weight on your shoulders, but to take off the weight you already carry. God knows that life isn't easy. He knows that the days grow long, that the nights seem endless. There are silences that hurt more than 1,000 words. But it also knows that deep inside you there's a heart that, though wounded, still wants to believe. A soul that, though weary, still hopes for a miracle. And I want you to hear this. You're not alone. No matter what's happening right now. You may feel like no one understands you, like no one sees your tears, but God has seen them all, every single one of them. And if you're hearing these words today, it's no coincidence. It's God speaking to you, reminding you that his love is still there. He is still waiting for you with open arms, just as he waited for the prodigal son. Perhaps you have felt lost, far from your purpose. Perhaps the faith that once gave you strength now seems like a small, almost extinguished flame. But let me tell you something. Even if your faith is only the size of a seed, it's still faith. And Jesus can take that little spark and turn it into fire again. The silent battle you fought, every tear you couldn't hold back, and while the world demands you be strong, he tells you, you can rest. Perhaps your heart is tired of giving without receiving, of waiting without seeing results, of loving without being understood. But God says to you, rest in me, my child. Rest in me, my daughter. I will take care of it. When you rest in him, it doesn't mean you give up, but that you trust. Resting in God isn't giving up. It's handing control over to the only one who truly knows how to solve what you can't. And maybe you're thinking, how can I rest if life doesn't stop? How can I let go when I have responsibilities, when there are things that depend on me? And the answer lies in your heart. Resting doesn't mean stopping action. It means letting go of the burden. You do your part, but you leave the burden in God's hands. Jesus invites you today to that kind of rest, one that not only relaxes the body but also heals the soul. And if you allow it, little by little you'll see that exhaustion turn into calm. How what once kept you up at night begins to lose its power over you. Because when God takes control, everything changes. Now I want to speak directly to you, the one watching this video. If these words are touching your heart, don't ignore them. It's the Spirit of God reminding you that you don't have to keep carrying the burden alone. And if you feel peace, even just a little, give thanks to God. That little bit of relief is already his presence working in you. And I want to invite you to do something small but meaningful. If you feel this message spoke to you, leave a like and comment below. Lord, in you I rest. Don't do it just as a digital gesture, but as an act of faith, as a declaration to the spiritual world that you are handing over your burdens to him. It's not just a simple action on social media. It's a way of saying to God, yes, I accept your invitation. Yes, I want to rest in you. Remember, the rest that Jesus promises isn't temporary. It's deep. It's not a fleeting respite. It's an inner transformation. When you hand over your burdens, he not only lightens your load, but also teaches you to walk lightly, with renewed hope. And just as you are, take another deep breath. Feel that God is with you right there. In the silence, in the stillness. You don't need to understand everything. Just believe that you're not alone. Because when the soul surrenders, the heart begins to heal. Jesus says to you today, come to me. Not tomorrow, not when everything is perfect. Now. just as you are. With your wounds, your doubts, your weariness. Come, for in my arms you will find what the world cannot give you. True peace. There is something very beautiful in the way Jesus calls us. He doesn't say, "Come to me, you who are strong." It doesn't say, "Come to me, you who are successful, who never fail, who never doubt." He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened." That means everyone without exception. Christ's message has no filter, no discrimination, no selection. If you're tired, if you've cried, if you've felt life weighing you down, then these words are for you. Perhaps for a long time you thought that God only drew near to those who pray every day, to those who seem to have their lives in order. But Jesus came precisely for those who can't go on any longer, for those who doubt, for the broken, for those who feel they no longer fit in. Jesus doesn't ask you to be perfect to draw near. He asks you to draw near so he can heal your imperfection. He isn't waiting for you to arrive clean, because it's his love that cleanses. He doesn't expect you to arrive whole, because his embrace is what completes what's missing in you. And it's important to understand something. The weariness Jesus mentions isn't just physical. It's a weariness of the soul. It's that inner fatigue that steals your joy even when everything seems fine on the outside. It's the invisible burden that many carry in silence. That feeling of emptiness, of emotional exhaustion, of thinking, how much more can I endure? Jesus knows. He also lived among human suffering. He also cried. He also felt the weight of life. That's why he can speak directly to your heart. Because he doesn't just understand, he feels with you. When Jesus says, "I will give you rest," he isn't promising that all your problems will disappear overnight. He is promising something far more powerful. A peace that surpasses all understanding. That peace that doesn't depend on what you have or what you lack. A peace that allows you to smile even in the midst of the storm, because you know you're not alone. If you look closely, you'll notice that this verse doesn't begin with a command, but with an invitation. Come. It is the voice of someone who loves you deeply, who seeks you, who calls you by name. Imagine Jesus saying to you, "Come, my son. Come, daughter. Don't carry it all alone anymore. I'm here," and that voice doesn't shout, doesn't pressure. It is soft, tender, and constant. It's the voice that whispers inside you when you're about to give up. The voice that tells you, "Hold on a little longer, trust me." Now I want you to take a moment right where you are. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you can. Silence your mind and your heart. And repeat these words with me, calmly, letting each phrase embrace you from within. Now I want you to take a moment. Wherever you are, if you can, close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Don't think about what you have to do next or about your problems. Just think about these words, "Come to me." It's Jesus calling you, not with reproach but with tenderness, not with demands but with love. Repeat in your heart, "Lord, today I come to you. I come with my burdens, my mistakes, and my fears. I've tried to do it all on my own and I'm tired. But today I want to hand over my burden, my sadness, my worries to you. I surrender to you what I cannot control, what I do not understand, what hurts me. Teach me to rest in you, to trust even when I don't see, to believe even when I don't feel. Because I know that you are my rest, my refuge, and my peace." Let yourself be enveloped by his presence. Because at that very moment, even though you can't see him, Jesus is listening to you. He is not a distant God, nor an abstract idea. He is a Father who looks at you with tenderness, who knows every. Lord Jesus, today I come before you with my weary heart. I have tried to be strong, but I realize I can't go on alone. I come with my mistakes, my weaknesses, and my wounds. Sometimes I feel like I have no strength left, that I can't go on anymore. But you tell me to come, and here I am, Lord. I hand over my burden to you. I hand over my worries to you, my thoughts that keep me awake at night, my fears about the future. I surrender to you what I cannot control. Take my tears, my silences, my guilt, and exchange them for your peace. Teach me to trust, to rest in you. Help me understand that I don't need to have all the answers, because you have already prepared the way. Fill my heart with your love that calms, heals, and restores. Today I draw near to you not because I am perfect, but because I need you. Pause for a few seconds in silence. Feel how God's presence envelops you. It's not imagination, it's not emotion, it's real. For when two or more gather in his name, perhaps you've been feeling lonely for a while. But let me remind you of something. Loneliness doesn't always mean the absence of company. Sometimes it's the space God uses to speak to you more clearly. In the silence, he whispers, I am with you. God hasn't forgotten you. Even if you feel your prayers go unanswered, even if you think he's silent, I assure you he is at work. The thing is, his way of working isn't always immediately apparent. But every tear, every prayer, every sleepless night, he has gathered them. And if you're hearing this, it's no coincidence. It's a divine reminder. It's God telling you, don't give up. I'm still here. I'm still with you. And even if you don't understand it, everything you're going through has a purpose. Jesus didn't promise you a life without storms, but he did promise you that he would be with you in the midst of them. And when you let him take the helm, even if the waves are high, the ship won't sink, because he calms the winds with a single word. Think for a moment. How many times have you tried to solve everything on your own? How many times have you felt exhausted trying to stay in control? Jesus tells you today, don't do it alone anymore. He doesn't want to see you carrying burdens that aren't yours to bear. He's telling you, give me what hurts you. Let me carry it with you, because his yoke is easy and his burden is light. Do you know why? Because when you share your burden with him, you no longer walk alone. Now I want to speak directly to you, who may be listening with tears in your eyes. I want you to know that God loves you just as you are. You don't have to pretend to be okay. You don't have to prove anything. His love isn't earned, it's received. And if today you decide to open your heart to him, he can transform your weariness into strength, your fear into faith, and your pain into purpose. Sometimes life teaches us to harden ourselves to not show what we feel. But God doesn't need a strong version of you. He needs the real one. The one who trembles, the one who doubts, the one who sometimes can't take it anymore. Because only when you present yourself as you truly are, without masks, can he work fully. And if this message is touching your heart, I want to invite you to take a small act of faith. It's simple but powerful. If you feel that God has spoken to you today, leave a like and comment. Jesus, I trust in you. Make it a declaration of hope. Not as a superficial gesture, but as a public testimony that you are putting your faith into action. Because when we confess our trust in God, even in the small things, heaven moves in our favor. Jesus is still calling today, with the same gentleness he did more than 2,000 years ago. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And if today you draw near to him even with a weary heart, you've already taken the most important step. It doesn't matter how you arrive. What matters is that you arrive, because in his presence, burdens lighten, wounds begin to heal, and the soul can finally breathe. So don't walk away. Stay a little longer. This is your refuge. This is your rest. Here there is no judgment, no guilt, no demands, only love. The love of a God who never tires of waiting for you. He is there. And at this very moment, as you listen to or read these, sometimes we don't say it, but there are days when the soul simply can't take it anymore. Days when everything feels like a burden. Thoughts, debts, fears, the words they told us, the ones that never came. And while the world keeps spinning, you're left there, trying to stay on your feet, to breathe, to pretend everything's okay. But Jesus doesn't ask you to pretend. He doesn't ask you to pretend to be strong. He tells you, come to me. It doesn't ask you for perfection. It doesn't ask you to arrive dressed up, clean, or with everything under control. It simply tells you, come. Come with your tears, come with your weariness, come with that sense of emptiness you carry inside. And when you do, when you stop running and decide to let everything go in his presence, something changes. Not on the outside, not right away, but within you. The noise of the world gradually fades away, and in its place comes something you can't explain with words. A calm, a certainty, a peace. Jesus doesn't promise that the road will be easy, but he does promise to walk with you. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Do you know what that means? That you no longer have to carry it alone. Jesus' yoke doesn't oppress or enslave. It sets you free. It teaches you to live with purpose, to stop fighting against everything and start walking with him. Perhaps you've spent years trying to do it all on your own, trying to control the uncontrollable, trying to heal with your own strength. But today, Jesus whispers to you, learn from me. Learn to rest, to trust, to let go of the weight you were never meant to carry. There are wounds that only God's love can touch. There are burdens that only he can lift. And even though you don't see it, he is already at work. When you cry, he doesn't turn away. When you doubt, he isn't offended. When you fall, he doesn't give up on you. Jesus doesn't love you for what you do, but because you are his son, his daughter. And although the world tells you that you're worth what you achieve, he reminds you that you're worth what you are, his creation, loved before you even existed. So take a moment to breathe. Close your eyes and listen. You are not alone. God is right here, in this very moment, amid your confusion, your tears, and your fear, reaching out his hand, not to judge you, but to lift you up, not to reproach you, but to embrace you. And in that embrace, the burden grows lighter. The soul begins to believe again, and life starts to make sense once more. Words, he is with you. Because that's what Jesus does. He turns burdens into rest, tears into hope, and storms into calm. And the rest he offers you doesn't depend on circumstances, but on his presence. So if tonight your heart is weary, if you've lost your strength or your faith, come to him. Talk to him as you would talk to a friend. Tell him everything that hurts you, everything you don't understand. And when you're done, be silent. For in that silence, Jesus will speak to your soul and say to you, "Do not fear, I am with you. You are not alone. You never have been. My rest is available to you. Just trust." When you decide to rest in Jesus, something begins to transform within you. It's no longer about chasing after everything the world tells you you need. It's no longer about proving to anyone that you can, or pretending that everything is okay. It's about learning to live in the peace of someone who knows that God is in control. And even though the noise outside remains the same, you are no longer the same. Because where there was fear before, now there is confidence. Where there was once weariness, now there is purpose. Where before everything was heavy, now there is lightness. Jesus teaches you to walk differently. It teaches you that life isn't about carrying everything, but about learning to let go. Let go of the past that hurts. Let go of the guilt that binds you. Let go of the fear of the future. And trust. Trust that whatever comes, he will use it for your good. The rest Jesus speaks of isn't about sleeping or escaping the world. It is looking at life from his perspective. It is having a peaceful heart even when circumstances seem impossible. It's that peace that the world can neither give nor take away. Perhaps you've gone through disappointments, losses, doors that closed without explanation. You've cried, you've asked why, and maybe you don't have all the answers. But God doesn't ask you to have them. He only asks you to trust, because every tear you shed, he saw it. Every time you thought about giving up, he held you up without you even noticing. And although the process has been long, now comes the calm. Because there comes a moment when God says, "Stop carrying the load. Now rest in me." That moment can be today. Here. Sometimes we think that to feel God, we have to be in a church or in the midst of a crowd. But no, God manifests himself in the simple things. In the sigh you give at the end of a difficult day. In that tear that falls when no one sees you. The moment you decide not to give up. While you listen to this, God can bring peace to your mind, your body, and your soul. A peace so deep that it depends on nothing external. Jesus said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." And perhaps you wonder, how can it be light if I still have problems? The answer lies in who carries the weight with you. When you walk alone, everything seems impossible. But when you walk with Jesus, the burden is shared, and your heart no longer feels the same, because he carries the hardest part. He takes care of what you can't, and it teaches you to trust instead of worrying. Little by little, that rest becomes a way of life. You start getting up in the morning with hope. You start looking at the sky and giving thanks. Even without understanding, you begin to feel that your story has a purpose, that your pain was not in vain. And that's when you understand that resting in Jesus isn't giving up. It's trusting fully. He didn't come to promise you a life without trials, but a life where trials don't destroy your faith, where every fall becomes a lesson, where every wound becomes a reminder of his faithfulness, and where every step, however slow, brings you closer to the peace that only he can give. So don't be afraid. Let your soul breathe. Not everything has to be resolved today. Just take one step, and then another, knowing that Jesus is walking with you. Because while you're striving to reach him, he's already waiting for you along the way, with open arms saying, "Come, my son, rest, I will take care of you. I will guide you. I will give you peace. And when you finally allow yourself to believe that, the soul stops running, the heart grows calm, and rest becomes your home. There comes a moment in life when the soul simply grows weary, tired of pretending, of running, of trying to control everything, and it is at that point, when there is no strength left, that God acts with the greatest power. Because when you reach the end of yourself, He begins His work. Jesus never asked you to be perfect. He never asked you to have all the answers, nor to hide your tears. He simply told you, "Come to me." And in doing so, it doesn't judge you, compare you, or reproach you. He embraces you. He welcomes you with the tenderness of a father who understands every wound, every mistake, every silence. You know, there is something deeply beautiful in the weariness of the soul, because that weariness isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's the heart's deepest call saying, "I need to go home." And home, dear brother, dear sister, is not a physical place. It is Christ Himself. When you rest in Him, your eyes begin to see differently. What once hurt you now teaches you. What once weighed you down now shapes you. And where you once saw ruins, you begin to see new foundations, because when God rests in you, He not only calms your soul, He also rebuilds it. Rest in Jesus is not passivity. It is transformation. It's not about giving up on life, but about surrendering to the love that can change everything. When you release your burdens into God's hands, something powerful happens. Fear turns into faith, anxiety into trust, and pain into purpose. Perhaps you've spent sleepless nights wondering how to solve your problems. Have you ever felt like no one understands you, like everything is overwhelming you? But I want you to listen to this with your heart. God understands you even when you don't know how to explain yourself. He knows your thoughts before you say them. He knows your tears before they fall. And He doesn't look at you with pity, but with infinite love. Jesus doesn't take away the storms, but teaches you how to walk on them. It teaches you that rest isn't always the absence of battle, but the presence of faith. And when that faith ignites within you, nothing is ever the same again. Because you begin to walk lightly, not because life is easy, but because you no longer carry it alone. Jesus said, "My yoke is easy." And sometimes we don't understand that word. But the yoke, in ancient times, was a wooden piece that joined two animals together to work together. What Jesus is saying is, let me join you. Don't walk alone. I'll carry the weight with you, and that is true peace, knowing that you no longer have to push life forward on your own. Look back for a moment. Everything you've been through, the times you thought you couldn't go on, and yet here you are. Do you know why? Because God never let go of you. Even if you didn't see Him, He was there. In your longest nights, in your emptiest days, in your prayers that seemed to go unanswered. And if He did it before, He'll do it again. That's why today I'm not asking you to understand everything, just to rest. Let God be your refuge. Don't fight the river. Let yourself be carried by its current. Because the water of the Spirit doesn't drown, it heals. And the fire of His love doesn't burn, it purifies. Look, there are many people today who need to hear exactly what you're hearing. Tired, sad, confused people. If you're feeling at peace with these words, don't keep it to yourself. Share this message. Leave a like and write in the comments, "Lord, I trust in you." Because when you share faith, you're planting hope in another heart. And you never know who might receive this message at the very moment they need it most. God is teaching you to walk slowly, calmly, and with purpose. It's no longer about running toward what's missing, but about being grateful for what you have. It's no longer about worrying about tomorrow, but about trusting that if God sustains the universe, He can sustain you too. So take a deep breath. Take a moment to feel God's presence right where you are. You don't need temples or rituals. He is with you right now. And as you do, something settles inside you. That anguish that seemed endless is beginning to dissolve. That sadness that weighed so heavily becomes light. Because when you hand your burden over to Jesus, your soul finally finds rest. When you finally decide to rest in Jesus, something within you changes in a deep and lasting way. You no longer look at life with the same tired eyes you once had. What once seemed impossible now becomes attainable. Not because circumstances have necessarily changed, but because your heart has found its strength in Him. That strength doesn't depend on your ability. but on your trust that God is sustaining you. The rest that Jesus offers is not a temporary pause, but a spiritual rebirth. It's as if your soul awakens after a long winter of worries, doubts, and fears. Each day begins to make sense again. Every step feels guided, and every decision can be made with clarity and peace. It's a rest that allows you to see the world and yourself from the perspective of divine love. When you take Jesus' yoke upon your shoulders, you discover something extraordinary. It doesn't mean your life will be easier, but that you'll no longer have to do it all alone. It is a constant companion, an invisible yet powerful support that makes heavy burdens light. You no longer have to fight difficulties alone. You have someone walking with you, sharing your burden, guiding you and strengthening you. Imagine for a moment that life is a long, difficult road. Before you tried to walk it with empty hands, trying to carry everything. Your fears, your responsibilities, your problems. Now, when put your heart in Jesus' hands and that path is transformed, every step you take is no longer filled with uncertainty, but with faith. Every decision you make has a purpose because now you walk with direction and confidence. Rest in Christ also teaches you to live with gratitude and hope. Before, perhaps you focused on what you lacked, on what you couldn't control, on what wasn't working. Now you begin to notice the blessings that were always there. The air you breathe, the family around you, the beauty of the everyday, the moments of joy that seemed invisible. Everything begins to take on value because your perspective changes. You're no longer trapped in despair, but instead, learn to value each moment as a gift from God. And when that inner peace is established, it also transforms the way you relate to others. You discover that patience, compassion, and tenderness flow more naturally. Your words become gentler, your actions more generous, and your heart more understanding. Because Jesus' rest not only heals the soul, but also allows you to radiate that healing to those around you. There's something very powerful about this. When you learn to rest in Jesus, faith stops being just an idea and becomes a way of life. It's no longer just believing what the Bible says, but living it in every action, every decision, every relationship. Every step you take becomes an opportunity to demonstrate trust, love, and gratitude. Every challenge you face becomes a field where your faith can grow and strengthen your spirit. And I want to speak directly to you who are listening to these words. Maybe you feel like you've wasted time fighting alone, that you've tried to handle everything and still can't find relief. I want you to know that it's not your fault. No one can carry everything without rest, but today, you have the opportunity to change that. Today you can decide to place your burdens in Jesus' hands and learn to live from the peace He offers. It's not an instant process. There will be days when worry tries to return, when problems once again seem overwhelming. But remember that Jesus' rest doesn't depend on the absence of difficulties, but on the constant presence of His love. Whenever you feel weak, whenever your heart doubts, He is there to hold you, to remind you that you are not alone and that you can overcome any obstacle with His help. So do it today, brother, sister. Start walking with Jesus in a new way. Let His rest become your daily guide. Learn to surrender your burdens, trust in His guidance, and live with purpose. Each day will be an opportunity to experience His peace, to radiate it to others, and to build a life that reflects divine love. And as you continue on your journey, don't forget to look back from time to time. You'll see how your life has changed, how the moments that once seemed impossible are now full of learning and growth. And the most beautiful thing, you'll discover that true rest, true relief has always been available to you in the loving arms of Jesus. When we learn to rest in Jesus, we discover something that often goes unnoticed: emotional freedom. It's not just about calming the heart or reducing daily stress. It's about letting God free us from everything that binds us, from all the emotions that drain our energy, from the fears that keep us from moving forward. The weariness we carry isn't just physical, it's emotional and spiritual. They are the burdens we accumulate over the years: resentment for what was done to us, guilt for what we did or failed to do, and anxiety about an uncertain future. Jesus invites us to let go of all of that, to lay it at His feet, and to allow His peace to fill us completely. When we hand our burdens over to Him, something powerful happens. We begin to see life clearly. The emotions that once dominated us begin to reflect our inner selves, not to be a tyrant that controls us. Sadness transforms into reflection, anger into understanding, fear into trust. Because when Jesus walks with us, He doesn't eliminate emotions, but teaches us to manage them from his perspective of love and wisdom. And it is precisely in that transformation that we find new strength for our purpose. Those who have spent years feeling trapped in routines that don't fulfill them, in draining relationships and in exhausting jobs, begin to notice a change. Suddenly, decisions feel clearer, paths more defined, and motivation arises not from pressure but from the desire to live in alignment with what God has placed in our hearts. Imagine for a moment what your life would be like if you could let go of all those invisible burdens you carry with you. If you could look at each day with the certainty that you're not alone. If you could live every action with the confidence that your steps are guided by a divine purpose. That's what Jesus offers. A life where rest becomes energy, peace becomes action, and love becomes your guide. And not only that, but this emotional release also allows us to heal our relationships. When we learn to rest in Christ, we become more patient, more understanding, and more empathetic. We don't react impulsively to others' anger, nor do we let disappointments destroy us. Instead, we learn to respond with love, to forgive, and to build bridges where there once were walls, because the rest that Jesus gives us not only benefits us, but flows out to everyone around us. Perhaps today you're hearing these words and feel that your heart is still heavy. Maybe you think, I've tried so many times to trust, and I'm still carrying this burden. But I want to tell you something. Every attempt counts. Every prayer, every decision to draw closer to God, every act of faith has been a step toward the freedom that awaits you today. You're not falling behind. You're in the process of transformation. Rest in Jesus also teaches us to look beyond ourselves. It reminds us that our lives have a greater impact than we imagine. May every word, every gesture, every action be a reflection of God's love for those around us. Living in peace isn't just a personal benefit, but a way to be a light in a world that often walks burdened by darkness. That's why today I invite you to a simple yet powerful act of faith. If you feel these words are touching your heart, leave a like and comment. I rest and trust in Jesus. It's not just a digital gesture, it's a declaration from your heart, an action that can inspire others who are also tired and in need of peace and liberation. Every comment and every like is a small testimony of courage and faith, honoring God and sowing hope in others. When you allow Jesus' rest to transform your inner being, you begin to notice concrete changes. Your mind calms, your heart opens, and your life begins to move with purpose. You no longer carry the anxiety of tomorrow alone, nor the guilt of the past. Every step you take is accompanied by His love. Every decision is illuminated by His guidance, and every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow in faith and strength. So take a deep breath, feel His presence in this moment, and allow Him to transform your burdens into peace, your doubts into confidence, and your life into a reflection of His love. Because the rest that Jesus offers is not temporary, it is not fleeting. It is a permanent change, a rebirth of the soul, a liberation that allows you to live fully, without fear, with faith, and with joy. Resting in Jesus isn't something that only happens during moments of prayer or reflection. It's a practice that can permeate every moment of your day. Every thought, every decision, every action can be transformed when you learn to walk with Him. Because the rest He offers isn't just spiritual, it's practical, tangible, and capable of changing the way you face everyday life. Think about your mornings. When you wake up, instead of feeling the pressure of pending tasks or worrying about what might go wrong, you can start your day with a peaceful heart. Breathe, recognize that God is with you, and that every step you take today can be guided by His peace. That simple act of entrusting your day to Him changes your perspective. Stress diminishes, anxiety softens, and your mind becomes clear to make wise decisions. In your relationships, resting in Jesus also has a profound impact. When your heart is at peace, it's easier to listen without judging, to love without expecting, and to forgive without reservation. You no longer react impulsively to conflicts. You no longer let others' mistakes rob you of your peace. Because God's love, which rests in you, begins to flow toward those around you. Even at work, that spiritual rest has a transformative effect. You can face challenges with serenity, find solutions instead of worrying, and communicate with clarity and patience. The weight of responsibilities becomes lighter when you recognize that you are not alone, that God walks with you and guides you in every decision. Your professional and personal life align with His purpose when you trust in His guidance. Resting in Jesus also helps us manage our emotions in a healthy way. When sadness, anger, or frustration arise, we no longer feel enslaved by them. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can pause for a moment, breathe, and ask God for clarity and strength to respond with love. This doesn't mean that emotions disappear, but rather that they stop controlling you and begin teaching you, showing you areas where you need to grow and learn. And not only that, but it also transforms our relationship with time. Before, days could seem overwhelming and short, filled with responsibilities that made us feel like we were always chasing something we never caught. Now each day becomes an opportunity to live with intention, to enjoy the small moments, to be grateful for what you have, and to trust that God is at work in your life. Life stops being just about surviving and becomes about living with purpose. Imagine for a moment how powerful this is. A rest that changes your mind, your heart, your actions, and your relationships. It's not magic. It's not an illusion. It's the real effect of putting your faith into practice, of allowing God's love to transform you. Every action, no matter how small it may seem, becomes an act of faith. Choosing patience when you could get angry, showing gratitude when you could complain, offering help when you could ignore. That's the daily impact of resting in Jesus. And I want to invite you to a small act of faith right now. If these words resonate in your heart, leave a like on this video and comment, "Today I rest in Jesus and trust in His guidance." It's not just a click, it's a declaration that strengthens your spirit and can inspire others who also need peace and guidance. Every comment is a seed of hope that can touch lives, reminding us that active faith has power. Remember that applying Jesus' rest to your daily life doesn't mean everything will be easy. It means that even though problems persist, your heart can remain at peace. It means that even when difficulties arise, your faith can sustain you. It means that each day, each decision, each moment can be an opportunity to live in His love, reflecting His peace and His purpose in the world. So today, as you close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath and remember, Jesus doesn't just offer you rest in your moments of prayer, He offers you rest for every moment of your daily life. Every step you take can be light, every thought can be clear, and every action can reflect His love and guidance. You don't walk alone, you don't carry your burdens alone, and you don't face the day without direction. Resting in Him means living each day with confidence, peace, and purpose, knowing that His love is with you at all times. We reach a point where everything begins to make sense. After learning to rest in Jesus, to release our burdens, to trust in His guidance, and to live with purpose, we understand something fundamental. Transformation is not partial, it is complete. It's not just one area of your life that changes. Your heart, mind, and spirit begin to align with His love and His will. This transformation doesn't happen by chance or through your own strength. It happens when you decide, day after day, to place your trust in Him. When you learn to let go of the burden you once carried alone, and when you allow His rest to become the foundation of your life. Every tear you shed, every sleepless night, every moment of fear becomes fertile ground for spiritual and emotional growth. Because Jesus doesn't just calm the soul, He completely renews your way of life. Imagine for a moment your life completely illuminated by this peace, where your decisions are no longer dominated by anxiety, but by the clarity that comes from trusting in God, where your relationships are no longer a source of pain but channels of love and understanding, where your difficulties no longer feel like insurmountable walls but become stepping stones that bring you closer to a more fulfilling life. It's not a path without challenges. It will never be completely so. But the difference now is that every challenge makes sense, every stumble is bearable, and every difficult moment becomes an opportunity to strengthen your faith. Because Jesus' rest isn't the absence of problems, but the presence of love that sustains and guides you, even when everything around you seems uncertain. And I want you to feel this deeply. God loves you just as you are, with your mistakes, your doubts, and your fears. He doesn't expect perfection, doesn't judge you for what you didn't achieve. and doesn't reject you for what you think is insufficient. His love is constant, unchanging, eternal. And when you learn to rest in that love, your entire life begins to reflect His peace and His purpose. Each day becomes an opportunity to live from that freedom that only He can offer. Every action, every word, every thought can be a reflection of His grace. Living in trust in Jesus is like walking under a clear sky after years of storms. It may still rain, but there is no longer any fear, because you know His light is with you. I want you to now, as you listen to these words, close your eyes for a moment and feel His presence beside you. Feel your heart calm, your mind grow serene, and your spirit strengthen. You are not alone. You have not been alone, and you never will be as long as you walk with Him. If these words have touched your heart and you feel at peace with today's message, I invite you to make a gesture of faith. Leave a like and comment. I rest in Jesus and trust in His love. It's not just a digital act. It's an act of courage, a testimony of your heart, a declaration of trust that can inspire others who are also seeking relief, hope, and purpose. Remember that resting in Jesus is not a luxury, but a necessity for the soul. It's learning to live without unnecessary burdens, with faith in every step, with love in every gesture, and with the certainty that God is always with you. Each day you choose to trust, each moment you decide to let go, each action you take from the heart is a reflection of His love. Your life can be a living testimony of what it means to live resting in Christ, a life filled with purpose, clarity, hope, and peace. A life defined not by its difficulties, but by the strength that comes from His constant presence. Today, tomorrow, and forever, you can walk with the certainty that you are not carrying your burdens alone, that you are not facing your challenges alone, and that your soul will always find rest in Jesus. Thus ends this journey together. But remember, practice continues every day, every breath, every thought. Every action can be a moment of rest in His love, and as you continue walking with Him, your life will be transformed into a reflection of His grace, His peace, and His infinite love. Because in Jesus, the soul finally rests and the heart finds its true home.